In May of 2020, author Rick Riordan started teasing a Percy Jackson TV series coming to Disney Plus based off his book series, and on January 25th, it was officially announced. And we thought it was going to be faithful. Even about a month and a half ago, Screen Rant here wrote, with Riordan heavily involved with the upcoming Disney Plus TV series as an executive producer and writer, it's virtually guaranteed to be a more faithful adaptation of the book series. So even Screen Rant thought it was going to be faithful. And when they announced this, they put out a statement, and this is an article from Geeks and Gamers I'm using. They said, "Hey Percy Jackson fans, for the past decade, you've worked hard to champion a faithful on-screen adaptation of Percy Jackson's world. Some of you have even suggested it would be a great series for Disney+. We couldn't agree more. We can't say much more at this stage, but we are very excited about the idea of a live-action series at the highest quality, following the storyline of the original Percy Jackson 5-book series starting with the Lightning Thief in Season 1. Rest assured, Becky and I will be involved in person in every aspect of the show, and Becky is Rick Riordan's wife. There will be much more news in the future, but for now, we have a lot of work to do. Buckle up, demigods. It's going to be a fantastic, exciting ride." So in this statement, he says that us, the fans, have been trying to get a faithful on-screen adaptation of Percy Jackson's world, and he suggests in this that that's what we are getting. And he even put out a tweet where he said point blank it was going to be faithful. But that tweet has since been deleted. Why, you might ask, if you don't know already? Well, here's a little teaser right here. Percy Jackson Disney Plus series cast Ariane Simhadri as Grover and Leah Sava Jeffries as Annabeth. I'm not really here to talk about Grover because his race isn't specified in the books, although in the comics there is illustrations of him that were approved by Rick Riordan, and he was white in that. But he was also black in the movie, and I didn't really have a problem with that, since, again, his race wasn't specified in the book. I didn't even know about the comics back then. So I don't really have much of a problem with this, although his hair was described as brown, but it's not really important to his character at all. So I give him a pass on that. But the Annabeth casting, however, I have a huge problem with. Because Annabeth is described again and again in the books as white, specifically tan, with curly blonde hair and gray eyes. And here's the Phantom Wiki right here with a detailed description of her. Annabeth has tan skin and a slender, athletic body. She has long, honey blonde hair set in perfect princess curls like Cinderella. Percy said that she looked like a typical California girl, except her stormy gray eyes ruined the image. As revealed in The Mark of Athena, she has a belly button despite not being born in the usual way. In the same novel, Aphrodite/Venus noted the beautiful young lady she's grown into. Despite being taller than Percy Jackson originally, Annabeth is now shorter than him, standing about 5'11", while Percy stands at around 6 feet. And they are 12 I think all three of them are 12 at the beginning of the series in Lightning Thief. So puberty happens and you grow. So that is easily explainable. Although her hair was said to have a streak of gray, as of the Titan's curse, due to the pressure of holding up the sky, she already lost it by the Mark of Athena. By the Hammer of Thor, Annabeth has started growing out her hair, and the way it caught in the sunlight briefly reminded Magnus of Sif, who had long, beautiful blonde hair. If you didn't know. Annabeth often wears a ponytail, an orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirt, and though she used to often wear a magical Yankees cap during a fight, since it turned invisible, it has since lost its magic. She also wears her father's college ring, and later a coral pendant that Percy gave her on a leather necklace with clay beads that she's earned every year at Camp Half-Blood. Because she came to camp at age 7, she would have 9 or 10 beads. So this is a very detailed description of her looks, her appearance. And they've just done a complete 180 here. They even describe her belly button I mean, that's how detailed this is. And now they've completely changed how she looks. Unlike Grover, her appearance is really important to her character. Of course, her personality is super important as well, obviously, but her appearance is very prominent in the books. Now you're just completely throwing that aside. Rick Riordan has since come out and talked about this, and he's calling fans racist for not supporting this race swap. This is an article from Bounding into Comics. We're gonna go through a few articles from them, as there's a lot to dig through here. A lot of stuff that him and his wife as well have said. This first one, Rick Riordan admits he's a racist, and we'll get into why, obviously, and calls his own fans racist over wanting accurate source material casting, and that's exactly what happened. It's by John F. Trent, and I'm going to skip the first paragraphs in all of these because they basically just repeat the headline, just so you know. 2 days after claiming he was delighted to hear about the overwhelmingly positive response to the casting announcement, Riordan is now calling his own fans racist, while also telling fans to stop harassing Jeffries. And yes, don't go harassing or bullying her. She just took a role. I don't have any problem with her. So, what I'm criticizing here is the casting in general, not her. In a post on his website titled Leah Jeffries' Annabeth Chase, Riordan began by writing, "This post is specifically for those who have a problem with casting of Leah Jeffries as Annabeth Chase. It's a shame such posts need to be written, but they do." He then clarified, "First, let me be clear, I'm speaking here only for myself. Well, as we'll learn in a minute, that is not completely true. These thoughts are mine alone. They do not necessarily reflect or represent the opinions of any part of Disney, the TV show, the production team, or the Jeffries family. Well, actually, they do represent the opinions of Disney. So, that is not true. That part, at least." From there, he reiterated the idea that the response to the casting has been overwhelmingly positive, which begs the question as to why he would even write a post outing himself as a racist and calling his fans racist. Exactly, and as he addresses later on, that there are people from both sides that are mad about this. This isn't a right or left thing. This is people from both sides of the aisle. So there's a lot of backlash, and even when the movies were made, there was a ton of backlash because Alexandra Daddario's hair wasn't blonde, and her eyes weren't gray. And there was enough for them to change it in the second movie to give her a blonde wig. There was a ton of backlash then. I'm sure there's a ton now. I'm willing to say that it's probably a majority. He's probably lying here. Maybe his 12-year-old army on Twitter is praising it. But outside of that, I think there's a ton of criticism. Twitter isn't real life. And it wasn't just us fans that were mad about the movies not being faithful. Back to this Geeks and Gamers article here. She says, "Do you know who was so outspokenly horrified with the 2 live-action adaptations? Rick. He hated them. He even tweeted about them multiple times. These tweets have since been deleted." So this has been deleted, or these have been deleted, and then his post talking about how this show was going to be faithful was also deleted. And he deletes them because he lied. He lied about this being faithful, and he wants to hide the fact that he was pissed off about the movies not being faithful because now he's doing the same thing. That is exactly what it is, and it's just very frustrating. He continued by claiming that people are bullying and harassing Jeffries, albeit without providing any proof. "If you have a problem with this casting, however, take it up with me. You have no one else to blame. Whatever else you take from this post, we should be able to agree that bullying and harassing a child online is inexcusably wrong." And like he says here, there's no proof being shown. I highly doubt that there's a bunch of people harassing her. There might be a few individuals that are doing that, and yes, that's wrong. Don't do that. That's terrible. She's just a kid, and it's not her fault. She's just taking a role. But there's no proof shown. So I don't necessarily believe that. Again, maybe a few, but not a ton. As strong as Leah is, As much as we have discussed the potential for this kind of reaction and the intense pressure this role will bring, the negative comments she has received online are out of line. They need to stop now. Show them. Show these comments. Show these people harassing her that you're not showing anything. The article continues. He's right. Bullying and harassing a child is wrong, but Riordan does not provide any proof that this is actually happening. Instead, nearly all the criticisms I have seen have been directed at Riordan and Disney. Yeah, same here. I have not seen anybody harassing her or calling her any names or anything or telling her bad stuff. Just been criticizing casting and Riordan and Disney. So I'd like to see some proof. And we'll get to this later, because we got something for that in another article for what his wife said. So we'll skip past that for now. Riordan continues his post explaining that the show needed to adhere to Disney's policies. He wrote, "I was quite clear a year ago when we announced our first open casting that we would be following Disney's company policy on non-discrimination. We're committed to diverse, inclusive casting for every role. Please submit qualified performers without regard to disability, gender, race, and ethnicity, age, color, national origin, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other basis prohibited by law." We did that. The casting process was long, intense, massive, and exhaustive, he added. So you're already admitting that race was a factor in the casting. You're admitting that you followed their diversity policies, non-discrimination policy, whatever you want to call it, and that it wasn't necessarily because she was the best for the role, that you needed to have somebody of color in a leading role. So already you're admitting that race was a factor, and that, by definition, is racist. So already he's admitting that he was being racist. So, and that's just one of the reasons why this article claims that he admits he's a racist. But he continues, "I have been clear, as the author, that I was looking for the best actors to inhabit and bring life to the personalities of these characters, and that physical appearance was secondary for me. We did that." Well, you just admitted that it had to be a factor, so it wasn't secondary. "We took a year to do this process thoroughly and find the best of the best. This trio is the best. Leah Jeffries is Annabeth Chase," he asserted. No, she's not. Riordan then decides to call his fans racist for wanting an accurate depiction of the character. Ironically, the argument he makes means all characters should be race swapped no matter what their source material is. Percy Jackson author writes, "Some of you have apparently felt offended or exasperated when your objections are called out online as racist. But I'm not racist, you say. It is not racist to want actors accurate to the book's description of the character. Let's examine that statement." And it is not, by the way. He explains, "You are upset, /disappointed, /frustrated, /angry, because a black actor has been cast to play a character described as white in the books. It doesn't look the way I always imagined." And we always imagined that she looked blonde with curly blonde hair and gray eyes because you described her that way. And we want you to follow that description that you wrote yourself. If it was not important to you, then why did you describe her that way and so much? It's a nonsensical argument. You either are not aware or have dismissed Leah's years of hard work honing her craft. This isn't relevant to the argument. We're talking about why it's apparently racist to want a character to look the same as they're described in the source material. I'm not denying that she may be a good actress. I haven't seen her or anything. I don't know. We're just upset because she doesn't match the description. It has nothing to do with anything. But he says you were either not aware or have dismissed Leah's years of hard work honing her craft, her talent, her tenacity, her focus, her screen presence. You refuse to believe her selection could have been based on merit. Because you said that. You said that up here, that you followed the diversity and non-discrimination policies. So it wasn't completely based on merit. You already went into it looking for somebody diverse. You refuse to believe her selection could have been based on merit, he argues. Without having seen her play the part, you have prejudged her. Prejudge equals prejudice. And decided that she must have been hired simply to fill a quota or tick a diversity box, because you said that. And by the way, these criticisms have come from across the political spectrum, right and left. And go back here for a second. We're not prejudging her acting skills. We're not prejudging really at all. We're just criticizing that she doesn't look the way the character is described. And as he says here, criticism would come from across the political spectrum. So this is coming from all directions here. This isn't just some fringe, like, alt-right thing that normally they would say. This is coming from everywhere, which means there's probably a ton of people that are upset about this. And you're calling those people, which, again, probably a majority, in my opinion, probably the majority in your fans that have been there from the beginning, most likely. You're calling them racist because they want you to adhere to your own description of a character in a book that you wrote. That's just insane. Riordan elaborates. You have decided that I couldn't possibly mean what I've always said, that the true nature of the character lies in their personality. You feel I must have been coerced, brainwashed, bribed, threatened, or whatever, or I was, as a white male author, never would have chosen a black actor for the part as a canonically white girl. First off, you were at least coerced to do it because you admitted that you had to follow their non-discrimination policies. So you were kind of forced to do it, one. And to address this one, I as a white male author would never chose a black actor for this. You wouldn't, because you describe her as tan, white, with curly blonde hair and gray eyes. Why would you describe her as that and then say, like, Lightning Thief? You just wrote Lightning Thief, then Disney comes to you right away wanting to do an adaptation. Why would you then just steer away from that and just cast a black girl to do it? That is nonsensical again. You wouldn't just do a complete 180 on that right away. So, this is not true. This is a lie. You refuse to believe me because you've already proved us right. The guy who wrote the books and created these characters, when I say that these actors are perfect for the roles because of the talent they bring and the way they use their auditions to expand, improve, and electrify the lines they were given. I'm not denying that that may have been a factor, but it was already predetermined that at least this character probably was not going to be the way that she was described. She's going to follow the non-discrimination policies, so I refuse to believe you because that is what you said. I'm sure you wanted the best diverse actress for it, but you wanted a diverse actress for it first and foremost. Riordan writes, once you see Leah as Annabeth, she will become exactly the way you imagine Annabeth. That is not possible because we imagine her as blonde, curly blonde hair, white with gray eyes. So that is not possible. Assuming you give her that chance but you refuse to credit that this may be true. I'm not denying that she could portray her well personality-wise. I don't know. I've never seen her act. So I don't know if she's good in that aspect. So I'm not going to say outright that she won't be. So that's not true, at least for me. And I don't think for the vast majority of those people criticizing you for the casting. I'm just mad that she doesn't look the same way. He then calls his fans racists for wanting characters to look the way they are described in his books. You are judging her appropriateness for the role solely and exclusively on how she looks. She's a black girl playing someone who is described in the books as white. Friends, that is racism. So there it is. He's outright calling his fans racist. It's not even, like, just an implied thing. It's not something that it can be misconstrued or anything. He's outright calling his fans racist. That is insane and one of the most ungrateful things, maybe the most ungrateful thing you can say to your fans. You're just alienating your fans that have been there from the start and care about your property the most. It's just So ungrateful. Fuck you, Rick Riordan, for doing that. And the rest of this is stuff that's not entirely relevant for me to cover. There is something towards the end that I will cover, but that is in this article. Rick Riordan wasn't wrong when he asserted he was a racist, claimed being white was, quote, a drawback, and now deleted blog post. And this is what I'm talking about here. And there's more in this article, but this is what I was talking about from that post. Riordan wrote, racism/colorism isn't something we have or don't have. I have it, you have it, we all do. Not just white people like me, all people. He added, it's either something we recognize and try to work on, or it's something we deny. Saying, I am not racist is simply declaring that you deny your own biases and refuse to work on them. He's saying everybody's a little bit racist. That's what he's saying here. So he's admitting that he is racist, but he's not just everybody's a little racist, as I've shown, but we'll get into even more reason why he is actually racist. The author apparently wasn't lying when he claimed that racism is something he has, thus admitting he's a racist. In a now deleted blog post from July of 2020, Riordan claimed that being white was a drawback. The post titled Feathers, Why Feathers, addressed why his character Piper, who was half Cherokee, described as wearing feathers in her hair. While detailing the research he did into the Cherokee, Riordan took issue with historian James Mooney's race. He wrote, for Piper's background, I started with James Mooney's book, History, Myths, and Sacred Formulas of the Cherokee. Now, Mooney was a white guy, so that's a drawback. So he's saying, since this author, this historian, is white, it automatically means that his work is less credible. That is racism. That is 100% racism. That is part of the reason why we don't trust that he made this casting in good faith, because he himself is a racist and he views things through the lens of identity, politics, and race. But continuing on, even more of this, that's right, Riordan believes that simply because Mooney was white, that's a drawback and somehow affects the legitimacy of his work. If that's not prejudice against somebody specifically because of their skin color, I don't know what is. Interestingly, as you see above, Riordan does admit that even though he believes Mooney being white is a drawback, that, quote, most of the sacred stories that Tristan and Piper talk about in the Heroes of Olympus come from Mooney's collection. So despite his work apparently to him being less credible because he was white, he still used it as a white man, nonetheless. So it's just lunacy. Riordan also claims that Mooney's work is, quote, Riordan also claims that Mooney's work, quote, is still the most comprehensive collection of Cherokee stories available from that time. So despite him claiming that him being white was a drawback, he still exploited the work for his own gain. And he's even saying that it's the most comprehensive collection of Cherokee stories. It's still the most accurate. But since he's white, it's somehow less credible. Crazy. Another point of interest is that Riordan claims Mooney being white is a drawback, but he seemingly doesn't realize that if he views his own logic, they must view himself as a drawback. After all, Riordan is white and adapted the Cherokee stories into his novels that were documented by Mooney. That is very accurate. Maybe the most galling aspect of Riordan's claim that Mooney being white is a drawback is that he later posts, after Mooney's book, I turned to the work of Robert J. Conley, a writer and member of the Cherokee Nation, the Western Cherokees. His Cherokee Nation is the official history of his people, sanctioned by the Western Cherokee leadership. Incidentally, the book draws heavily on Mooney as a source, which goes to show how reliant we are on earlier, imperfect written records. Mooney is mentioned 92 times. So even a member of the Cherokee Nation, who wrote the official history book of the Cherokee, relied on Mooney's work. So does that mean Cherokee himself, the official history book, is less reliable because it relied on the work of a white guy? That it's You see how crazy this is? It's absolutely insane. It's complete lunacy. So for Riordan to claim we are racist is laughable when he's saying this shit. It is completely hypocritical, and he's outright just being bad faith and lying about his fans. It is so ungrateful. It's just hard to believe. But Rick Riordan isn't the only Riordan going after the fans. Becky Riordan, his wife, encourages harassment of Percy Jackson fans, doubles down on calling fans racists. Riordan previously implied that fans were racist when she claimed they were engaging in demagoguery in reaction to race swap castings. She tweeted, "A while back, you, the fans, and I agreed to make these handles as kid-friendly, safe places as possible. We give no room for demagoguery. We focus on the positive. We are supportive and uplifting. We encourage fans to not give space to hate speech, veiled or blatant. Hashtag do not tweet hate." So criticizing a casting for not being accurate is hate speech now? This is completely insane. And she uses picture of the dog to get some sympathy, obviously. She then proceeded to call people who wanted the show to be true to the book's source material haters. So the biggest fans are haters because they want the show to be loyal to the source material. Not completely nonsensical. I will also tell you something I know is a fact. Rick's books open people's minds. We get letters all the time that tell us this. Our TV show can do the same. Riordan added, yelling at haters will get us nowhere. Do not give their hate fires oxygen. Again, hashtag do not tweet hate. Next, Riordan tweeted, "Demagoguery is a good word to know. Do we need to have a talk about the intersectionality of misogyny and racism? Misogyny is equally a problem here. We condemn both." How is misogyny a problem in this at all? I mean, as we addressed, racism isn't either, but misogyny is absolutely not a problem here. There is nothing misogynistic about this. We are upset because we care about a female character a lot, and we want this to be loyal to her. That is absolutely nonsensical and just stupid argument. There's nothing misogynistic about this at all. Getting yelled at? Annabeth doesn't belong to you. She never did. Leave Leah alone, Riordan added. Again, I don't think there's anybody really going after her. Again, there might be a few individuals, but nobody that I've seen talking about this has gone after her, and there, again, has been no proof shown. Not from either of them. And the fact you're saying Annabeth doesn't belong to you, you're right. We don't own the copyright, but we apparently are more protective than the owner of the copyright, the person that made the character, the person that should care about the character the most. Doesn't that tell you something right there? Becky Riordan then outright called those critical of casting racist and misogynistic. She wrote on Twitter, "Most of the haters don't know they are misogynistic and or racist, so you won't be able to convince them that they are wrong. You won't be able to convince us that we're wrong because your husband, Rick, has proved us right, as I've explained. Not because we're misogynistic or racist, but because we care about the character." Riordan continued, "The one thing you can do, many of you are already doing it, sing Leah's praises, shout your approval of Leah worldwide, great art in her honor, celebrate." This is like religious shit right here. What the fuck? She would then seemingly encourage harassment, or at least cheerlead the harassment, of those she deemed racist and misogynist in response to a user claim that individuals critical of the casting know they're racist and misogynist. Riordan tweeted, "They sure as heck should know now. You all are giving them a good what for." So right there, she's openly encouraging her followers to go into our comments and yell at us, send hate to us. And I haven't received any hate personally, but I mean, there's a lot of people that have, and they've been ruthless. This Geeks and Gamers article, for example, when Geeks and Gamers posted this on Twitter, people were in the comments, in the replies, just going after Geeks and Gamers and Blabbering Collector who wrote this, and just being ruthless. And then Ryan Kinnell from Geeks and Gamers got into it, and he made videos, and they were going after him as well. And this army that the Riordans have built up are just ruthless. They have been harassing people more than anybody has harassed Leah Jeffries. And again, there's no proof that they even did that. So the fact that you're encouraging this just shows how hypocritical you are, and you haven't even provided any proof that people were going after Leah Jeffries in the first place, neither of you. And right here, Master of TDS compiled a bunch of comments that were in replies to him, quote tweets and comments, of these people going after him. So as you can see, there's proof here that they have been going after people for criticizing this casting, but they have not shown any proof whatsoever of anybody harassing Leah Jeffries. The hypocrisy here is astounding. But I wanted to leave you with my own tweet here. I wrote, "So wanting the characters to be faithful to the lore, your lore, and portrayed the same way you portrayed her is racist? You yourself were furious with the movies for not being faithful, and now you're doing the same thing. Fuck you, Rick Riordan." And I completely stand by this tweet. The fact that he's going after fans for wanting you and Disney to be faithful to your own books, your own lore that you wrote, is just so ungrateful and just appalling to me. So fuck Rick Riordan and fuck Becky Riordan for going after the fans and just being hypocritical pieces of shit. I mean, you're insane. I probably won't watch this unless I decide to review it. There's no reason for me to give this a chance at all. And you just completely betrayed us, called us names, just alienated us. And you changed the looks of all three characters. Actually, I didn't talk about the Percy Jackson casting, but Percy Jackson had black hair, jet black hair, I believe, to be specific. And this kid has ginger, I think, hair, or light brown. I'm pretty sure that's ginger, though. It just doesn't... I just not a big fan of it. So, I won't be immersed. Maybe they're good actors. Maybe they portray them well personality-wise, acting-wise, but just, I'm never going to be sucked into it because they don't resemble the characters. I'm not going to see them as those characters. And why should I give the show a chance when you're just outright attacking us for wanting you to be faithful to your own source material? But let me know what you guys think of this whole situation. Are you upset about this casting? Are you okay with it? You gonna give the show a chance? You gonna skip it? What are your thoughts on Rick Riordan coming out and just completely betraying his fan base? Let me know. But thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, share it. And I also have another channel called Thoughtful Outlaw Sports, so check that out if you're interested, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.